In 1962, Carla L. Ruckert joined a channeling group formed by Don Elkins, a professor of physics and engineering at the University of Louisville, who had been investigating UFOs and paranormal phenomena, including seances. This group has been channeling entities calling themselves members of the Confederation of Planets in service to the One Creator. In 1970, Don and Carla formed the nonprofit organization LL Research and dwelled together until December 1980, when Jim McCarty moved in with them to join them in their research. Shortly after, on January 15, 1981, the group was contacted by Ra. Thus, a series of 106 sessions began, and later became known as the Law of One or the Ra Contact. The questioner, Don Elkins, communicated with Ra through the instrument Carla Ruckert, who was in trance state during sessions, and Jim McCarty was the scribe. The Law of One, though beyond the limitations of name, as we call vibratory sound complexes, may be approximated by stating that all things are one, that there is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. All is one, and that one is love-light, light-love, the infinite creator. If you've heard of the name Ra in connection with the Egyptians, and you were wondering if they were connected with that Ra in any way, the answer is yes. The connection is congruency. The identity of the vibration Ra is their identity. They as a group, or what we would call a social memory complex, made contact with a race of our planetary kind, which we call Egyptians. They found it was not efficacious. However, they then felt the great responsibility of staying in the capacity of removing the distortions and powers that had been given to the Law of One. They will continue in this until our, shall we say, cycle is appropriately ended. If not this one, then the next. They are not a part of time, and thus are able to be with us in any of our times. They had walked among our people. They remembered sorrow. They had seen much. They had searched for an instrument of the proper parameters of distortion in mind-body-spirit complex, and supporting an understanding group of mind-body-spirit complexes to accept this information with minimal distortion and maximal desire to serve for some of our years. Consider the process of one who sees the spectrograph of some complex of elements. It is a complex paint sample, let us say for ease of description. They of Ra knew the needed elements for communication, which had any chance of enduring. They compared their color chip to many individuals and groups over a long span of our time. This group's spectrograph matched their sample. In order to illuminate the relationship betwixt space-time and time-space, may we say that they conducted this search in time-space, for in this illusion one may quite readily see entities as vibratory complexes and groups as harmonics within vibratory complexes. The distortion understanding of their social memory complex that the most efficient way to communicate material with as little distortion as possible, given the necessity of the use of sound vibration complexes, is to remove the conscious mind complex from the spirit mind body complex so that they may communicate without reference to any instrument's orientation. They use the vocabulary of the language with which we are familiar. This is not the instrument's vocabulary. The mechanics of this process taking place involve, firstly, the use of the physical bodily complex of third density, with its accompanying physical material, in order to voice these words. Secondly, the function of the supporting group may be seen to be firstly, that of protection for this contact. Secondly, that of energizing the instrument and intensifying its vital energies. They had watched Don's group. They had been called to this group, for the group had a need for the diversity of experiences in channeling which go with a more intensive, or as we might call it, advanced approach to the system of studying the patterns of the illusions of our body, our mind, and our spirit, which we call seeking the truth. They hope to offer a somewhat different slant upon the information, which is always and ever the same. The Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite Creator has only one important statement. That statement, my friends, as you know, is all things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought. In truth, there is no right or wrong. There is no polarity, for all will be, as we would say, reconciled at some point in your dance through the mind-body-spirit complex, which you amuse yourselves by distorting in various ways at this time. This distortion is not, in any case, necessary. It is chosen by each of you as an alternative to understanding the complete unity of thought which binds all things. You are not speaking of similar or somewhat like entities or things. You are everything, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation. You are unity. You are infinity. You are love light, light love. You are. This is the law of one. In the first session, they advised care in disturbing the channel, and then the proper procedure for aiding an instrument, who had to some extent the need of re-entering the mind-body-spirit complex. They suggested, first, a brief period of silence, then the repetition of the instrument's vibratory complex of sound in our density, which we call name, repeated until an answer was obtained. Then the laying on of the hands at the neck region for a brief period, so that the instrument might have recharged batteries, which were not, shall we say, full of the essence of that particular field at that time. And finally, a gift of water, into which the love of all present had been given. This would restore this entity, for her distortions contained great sensitivity towards the vibrations of love, and the charged water would effect comfort. The charging of the water was done by those present, placing their hands over the glass and visualizing the power of love entering the water. This would charge that very effective medium with those vibrations. They warned that under no circumstances should this instrument have been touched until she had responded to her name. In the second session, they asked if Dawn had any questions about the proper use of this mind-body-spirit complex. Dawn asked what the proper use of this instrument was and what they should do to maximize her ability to comfort, rejuvenation, etc. They were pleased that Dawn asked this question, for it was not their understanding that they had the right duty to share their perceptions on any subject but philosophy without direct question. However, this mind-body-spirit complex was not being correctly used, and therefore was experiencing unnecessary distortions of body in the area of fatigue. They stated that the vibrations might well have been purified by a simple turning to the circle of one and the verbal vibration while doing so of the specific dialogue. Thus generated a wall of the light forms through which negative entities cannot pass. This was due to the energy complexes of the light beings and aspects of the one infinite creator invoked and evoked in the building of the wall of light. The instrument at that time should have been in trance. The proper alignment was the head pointed to the direction from which the new age distortions of love light, which were less distorted, were emanating from, and this instrument found comfort therein. They stated that this was a sensitive instrument, by which they meant the distortions which entered her mind-body-spirit complex came from any of her senses. Thus, it was well to do the following. Place at the entity's head a virgin chalice of water. To the center, the book, most closely aligned with the instrument's mental distortions, which were allied most closely with the law of one, that being the Bible that she touched most frequently. To the other side of the Bible, a small amount of scents or incense in a virgin censer. To the rear of the book symbolizing one, open to the Gospel of John, chapter 1, a white candle. The instrument would be strengthened by the wearing of a white robe. The instrument shall be covered and prone, the eyes covered. They added that if these teach-learning sessions were held during time-space during which sun-body did not light their room, that it was best to call the instrument before the lighting of the illuminatory mechanism. In the third session, they explained the process by which this became a significant distortion balancer. The incense acted as energizer to the physical body of this instrument, signifying its humanity. This was therefore a necessity that the wafted smoke was perceived from the same relative angle as the instrument perceived the open Bible, balanced by the lighted candle, signified love light and light love, and therefore gave the mental and emotional, shall we call it, distortion complex of this instrument, the sight of paradise and peace which it sought. Thus energized from the lower to the higher, the instrument became balanced and did not grow fatigued. This instrument was capable of 2 sessions a day. However, she had to be encouraged to keep her bodily complex strong by the ingestion of foodstuffs to an extent which exceeded this instrument's normal intake of foodstuffs, this due to the physical material which they used to speak. Further, this instrument's activities had to be monitored to prevent overactivity, for this activity was equivalent to strenuous working on the physical level. If these admonitions were considered, the 2 sessions would have been possible. Just after a month, the channel used a chemical substance LSD, which has within it the facility of removing large stores of vital energy from the ingester. This was carefully planned by Orion entities who offered LSD in hopes that this instrument would become less polarized towards the positive and the possible misuse of the most powerful means of transmission of energy in the area of body complex distortions during sexual reproductive complex of actions. There were no results satisfactory to the Orion group. The only remaining distortion available was simply to drain this entity of as much energy as possible. Thus much vital energy was lost, making this instrument unusually susceptible to infections. By mid-April 1981, the instrument started to experience extremely low physical energy due to the first psychic attack, what the group came to call psychic greeting. Variations towards the distortion of intensity of attack occurred, due to the opportunities presented by the instrument in any weakness. In the general case, pain, as we call this distortion, and the various exaggerations of this distortion by psychic attack would have, after the depletion of physical complex energy, begun the depletion of vital energy. Its subconscious will, which was preternaturally strong for this density, had put a ward upon this energy complex. Thus the Orion visitor strived, with more and more intensity, to disturb this vital energy, as this group intensified its dedication to service through enlightenment. The development of the psychic greeting is possible only through the energy centers starting from a station, which we might call within the violet ray, moving through the adept's energy center, and therefrom towards the target of opportunity. Depending upon the vibratory nature and purpose of greeting, be it positive or negative, the entity will be energized or blocked in the desired way. The entity of Orion pierced the violet ray and moved to 2 places to attempt most of its non-physical opportunities. It activated the green ray energy center, while further blocking the indigo ray energy center. This combination caused confusion in the instrument and subsequent overactivity in unwise proportions in physical complex workings. It simply sought out the distortions pre-incarnatively programmed and developed in incarnative state. The only thing the group could do to protect the instrument from these attacks was they could refrain from continuing this contact. That was which they were not already attempting with a whole heart.